into form, through form, back into form, through form, out and back into form immediately, through form, out and back into form immediately, through form, out and back into the next form, through form, out and back into the next form. This is the cycle of existence for us as microcosmic beings, never ending, infinitely, never dying, simply jumping from one form to the next form, infinitely and forever. The form will expire. We will immediately jump into the new form in a nanosecond, because we are eternal beings, just like Amma, never ending, infinite and unlimited power, trying to express ourselves through these human forms. So we'll go out and back into the next form, go live through this form, come to a peak at the top, and then age out. The form will age out. Our microcosmic spirit will leave that form and jump back into the next form. Live through that form, wear that form out, leave that form, and animate the next form. This is the cycle of existence for us, the microcosmic beings, the microcosmic expressions of the totality, the macrocosmic being we call Amma, endlessly and forever, jumping into form, living through these forms. The form wears out, cannot keep up with us, so we will jump from that form into the next form, endlessly and forever, living through these forms, not to be confused as being the forms. We simply jump from one form to the next form, live through that form. As the form ages out, we will simply transform into the next form, endlessly and forever. This is the cycle of our existence. How you doing, family? Welcome to another Bantu Morpheus workshop. What I'm doing here is we're going to do a comparative critique of Philippe Matthews, who is on a virtual, doing a virtual presentation of his overall analysis and of the trauma experience, as well as the trauma experience that Africans in the diaspora are experiencing from the focus of Africans in America. But he's also doing a beautiful job. To me, this is one of the best presentations I have ever seen of his work that I have been viewing for the last 2 years solidly. And he did a really phenomenal job on this presentation, and I had to record it And what I want to do here for you is allow you to do two things. One, get all of the data and the insight that he beautifully presents here for you. And I want to encourage you to join his, go to his website and participate on whatever level you feel comfortable with getting involved with his training. But he absolutely deserves to be honored and respected for the comprehensive collection of data that he has put together to help not only African people throughout the world, and as a consequence to uplift and help the whole society of the world, of the humans, to evolve to a new level by shaking off all of this dysfunction of the mutated Africans who have come out of the Ice Age process, which has transformed them into these barbaric creatures that have to be now brought back into the human family slowly and surely over the last, well, we've been working on them for the last 2,000, 4,000 years, 6,000 years, trying to get them back into a higher level of humanity. This has been the real work that Africans have been doing with these mutated Africans. And this is really the true story of what's going on here that has all these labels of race and white supremacy and all of these false labels that the mutates have created in order to, I guess, deal with their emotional trauma of being first becoming albinos and then forced into 100,000 plus 300 years of being in the ice, having to live underground in caves for over 100,000 years and being mutated into these albinized mutates. And all of the megalomaniacal dysfunction that comes out of the whole traumatic experience that they have gone through with being mutates. And so I think that Philippe Matthews in this presentation, my God, is just, and I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm talking 30, 40 years, folks. I've never seen a more beautiful, masterful job that this brother has done in producing this comprehensive presentation. It's very long. I'll probably have to break this up into 4 videos in order for you to get it all. But the accumulation of data from all of these authors, scientists, psychologists, archaeologists, anthropologists that he has put together is a masterful job of articulating and explaining and educating people in general about the lies and the confusion and the megalomaniacal dysfunctional expressions that these poor mutated Africans have just been traumatized into. And this is why they have been like a virus or a plague on the planet, because of their trauma. This is their expression of their trauma, their jealousy of the Africans who were not stumbled into this becoming albinos and then becoming these mutated Africans who have lost all pigmentation, stripped of their humanity and their decency, and their connection to all things because of their ice experience. And they don't even know it. It's on a subconscious level. And what they have done to a lot of Africans in the world because we are all creatures of our environment. So if these creatures come into our environment with their mutated dysfunction and mental illness and all of the dysfunction, we are going to also be impacted by that. And so now we have inculcated a lot of this dysfunction and insanity into the overall society. And that has to be cleaned up. And since we're all connected, we all have to work together to clean these folks up. First, you got to wake them up. First, you got to wake up the Africans who have been confused by all of the nonsense and the insanity that these mutates have spewed for a good 4,000 years. It's just an unbelievable amount of confusion and misdirection and miseducation in order to hide their shame and their jealousy and their frustration with nature, God. They have interpreted what happened to them as God is going against them. This is how twisted their minds have become. They're angry at nature for making them albinos in the beginning. And then for having the ice age come, they're angry at the cosmos for letting the planet move in such a way from the sun that it caused an ice age, and they got caught in it. So now they're looking for somebody to blame. And whoever they're not blaming, then they're jealous of those that did not have to go into this mutated form. Now, so all of these machinations, all of this maniacal nonsense that they have created in order to deal with their shame and their behavior and what they have become, this is all a coping mechanism that they are expressing in order to try to get back to balance. And so this is not about blame. This is about having a clear analysis of what's happened and how we fix it. That's what this is all about, okay? So what Philippe Matthews has done here is compiled a phenomenal, accurate, informative, inspiring curriculum in this video that helps us to get a clear analysis and understanding of where we are, how we got into this mess, how they became the maniacs that they are. And it's not about calling names. That's the only way to describe their behavior. It's anti-nature, it's anti-life, it's suicidal. It's all of these problems that come from, this kind of being stuck in the kind of environment that they were raised in over generations. So it's going to take generations, hundreds and thousands of them, to clean this up. But we can speed this up by having a clear understanding of what happened to these mutated Africans. Okay. And so I'm giving you all of this as an intro to what we're going to be experiencing here with what Brother Philippe Matthews is presenting. He's doing a webinar or internet interview with a brother who's running a YouTube channel that comes out of England. I kind of spliced all of that out because we have so much to cover. And I mean, no disrespect to this brother, African brother who was in England, who's presenting this. But in order, for the sake of time, I have to try to keep this down to a minimum. And this is coming from my perspective. This is Philippe Matthews, his footage, or his presentation that he gave on this brother's show. I will show a link here to that brother's show so you can see the original But for the sake of brevity and to keep this as short as possible, which is not going to be possible because this actually took an hour and 40 some odd minutes for Philippe to present this. So I'm trying to edit out as much as possible and present it to you in either 3 or 4 parts so that you can get all this, because this is something you gotta have as a part of your being a human being. In order for you to be able to be the best human being you can be, you need this data, because you're born into this stuff. You need this data. Okay, so let's get started, and let me have you hear what Brother Philippe is doing this masterful presentation. And again, today is this is now March 27th. Okay, and we're going into, actually I'm shooting this video on March 28th. I'll probably present it and post it starting in March 29th of 2021. Okay, and but this was, I believe this was shot and aired. You'll see in a link that I'll post that when you go to the link and watch the original, I believe it was shot on March 23rd. So, okay, this is just so you'll have context. Let's see what we got here. Another point I want to bring out about what's going on with this mutated African and his megalomaniacal, out of control human form, instinctive, that's being ran, that is totally dominated by the instinctive intelligence. In most cases, not in every case, but there's so many of them. You know, the thing you have to keep in context about this, the problem that they present by coming into the environment. Now, they do kind of strike a balance against perfection, but there is a problem with their, you know, see, if everything is good, perfect, and balanced, it's like you have a perfect block of ice. All it takes is one little sharp jab. And the jab is smaller than the totality of the block, but it can disrupt and split the block of ice in half. Well, that's what's going on with this disruptive, maniacal thing in your environment, these people in your environment. We are creatures of our environment. So if our environment becomes chaotic, then it's going to impact us. So what we have here is a situation where prior to these Africans becoming mutated and you know, the kind of virus-like disruptive inharmonious force, what they have done is disrupted the homeostasis of all cultures they come in contact with, because they're empty. And everybody they come in contact with that have evolved out here in the sun, they're a vacuum. So they're not bringing anything to the game. They're coming to take. And in a give and take scenario, when what they have to offer, and they do have some positive. The positive I have to say is that they have this segregative mindset, that and their greed, and their selfishness. The ice has put them on a level, a toxic level, that the vast majority of Africans that were out here over the hundreds of thousands, the 100,000 years that they were in the ice, as we evolved, they devolved, as Baba Matthews breaks down here, you know. And because they devolved, they're the exact opposite of most of the people on the planet, and they've just crawled out of the caves, realistically about maybe 10,000 years ago. So you're talking 100,000 years versus 10,000 years. It's going to take these mutated Africans, I would say, a good another 50,000 years, maybe less, with the technology we have and the education, with the internet, not educating. The education system they created. And that's another point. Everything that they dominate and create is going to be designed by design. It's set up to work in their favor. As demented and warped as they are, it's set up to work in their favor. So your best bet is to work with them from a distance. If they have technology and things like that, take their technology, inculcate it into your environment in whatever way it can make your environment better. Use that. But we're going to have to kind of keep our distance from these people, because you don't have to isolate, but you gotta, don't hug up and their religion, don't even go near it. I mean, this is one of the biggest problems for African Americans and Africans in the diaspora, in the Caribbean, even in Africa too. Anybody that engages in this demented religion that they created, you are in for a world of hurt, because everything about their religions, I don't give a damn if it's Islam, the version of Islam that they're using, forget about it. Buddhism, the version of Buddhism that these Europeans, you forget about it. Christianity, the version with the Christianity and all these Islams and Buddhism and all these things. Now, Buddhism, I have to give it a little bit of pass. I have to give Buddhism a pass. I really do. But Christianity, what they created, all I tell people to do is don't take it personal. Look at it as business and science, and do the research. And anybody who is a neutral scientist, a neutral researcher, when you see the data and you see the evidence, it is going to be crystal clear that that book is a hodgepodge of purposeful distraction and designed to make you lose your focus and focus on them and their madness. It is filled to the brim with absolute madness, contradictions, confounding, convoluted mentality. One minute they're saying one thing, next minute they're contradicting it. Murder, trying to justify murder, stealing, robbing, and raping. It is, and when I find books like that, I throw the whole thing out. I'm not going to waste my time trying to find the nanites and the nanites of decency and kernels of goodness and decency that they copied from the Kushites, from the Nubians, from the Sumerians, from the Bantus and all of the other first people who have developed the sciences, culture. There was no such thing as religion in the beginning. It don't even make sense. Reconnect to what? Why would you need to reconnect to something you never left? See, so they have to reconnect. So if you buy into their reconnecting, that's what religion means, then you are going down a rabbit hole that is designed to help them get their heads together. I'm not following them. Why would I follow the child and I'm the father? I mean, just don't. You have to, once you do your research, folks, and you get it together, this is not about insult. It's about science. It's about business. It's about common sense. You just don't follow a mutated. Now they bring something to game. Their left side brain activity, teaching you how to deal with details and whatnot, and follow detail logic and first principles and things like that. That's good. Take the good, but don't be so gullible and so, unreasonably gullible, and deny what your eyes and all your senses and all the alarms are going off left and right, that you're hearing things that don't make no sense. It don't sound healthy, and it just don't make sense. When that happens, accept what your senses are telling you. That's why you have them. Okay? And I wanted to bring that out about what you're going to cover. What we're going to cover here with spacing, which is what Baba Philippe is going to be covering here in this last part. He's covering the 4 different types of maniacal madness that these mutated Africans have put in place in a desperate attempt to hide their shame. And spacing is the last part of a 4-part presentation that Baba Philippe is giving us here. And I just want to give that context, as well as continue to show correspondences and corrective critiques on not Baba Matthews, in some places, yes, and Baba Philippe, but mainly with the interpretation and what I believe, the kind of constructive analysis that I'm getting, and the conclusions that I get based on as a reactive and a corrective reaction to the different mentally demented systems that these mutates have put into play. Okay, and my goal again is to get us back to center, back to balance, back to functioning out of the microcosmic infinite being that has infinite potential and never dies, and has this intuitive intelligence that already knows everything. Okay, and this is the tool that you have to identify with that will help you to overcome the madness and the insanity that is being perpetuated by these mutates, and their terror and their fear and their confusion and confounding madness that they are perpetuating. Let's move on.
Jim Crow involved segregation of all aspects of daily life, segregation of railways, which was challenged by Homer Plessy. Jim Crow laws in the South prohibited black and white workers from fraternizing on the job, separated the races in hospitals and mental institutions, and segregated inmates in prisons. Separate park laws also appeared, and certain circuses, tent shows, sideshows, theaters, picture houses, and other amateur sports teams were increasingly required to separate the races. Segregation was even went so far as Jim Crow Bibles or Negro witnesses in Atlanta courts and Jim Crow elevators for Negro passengers in Atlanta buildings. Now, beyond the classic Jim Crow segregation social space, residential segregation has also been and continues to be one of the inescapable facts of blackness and whiteness in the United States. And going back to the question that was asked earlier about black and white, in order for whiteness to exist, it has to have an opposite, and that is the black. So that's why it's just the language alone of the European language. We're speaking English. It is the most false language of all the languages. So this is why we have to educate ourselves to understand our true African heritage. But by doing so and learning our first frequency language, our first frequency state and way of being, we become bilingual versus just identifying as one false identification. So in other words, I can speak Negro, I can speak nigga, I can speak European, but I am first frequency African because I don't identify as a Negro, as a nigga. I don't identify as a thug or a baby mama or what. I speak those languages when I'm in those communities, in those cities, in those zip codes, but I don't identify as such. And so one of the things we have to do is begin separating ourselves from our zip code. What did you learn in your zip code? When you were born, where you were born, how you were born, your environment. You've got to become bigger than that. We'll talk about that momentarily. The techniques by which residential segregation has been produced has historically included intimidation, terror, and discrimination in housing and home finance markets. We are all familiar with the geography of race produced by these practices, as well as by public policies such as urban renewal, clearly demarcated lines between largely homogeneous Black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. Now, the boundary is stark, clear, and every every American knows about it and keeps it in the back of their mind, so as not to be dangerously out of place. Even in New York's diverse Elmhurst Corona study by Richard Sanjak, in which peoples and languages run into each other in a mix never before seen. Blacks are segregated in one housing development. Black people are kept and largely remain in their place.
Okay, now the point I want to make here, that when we speak, when we, as Baba breaks down this clear analysis on what they have done to corral and control African Americans here. The most important thing we have to remember here is when we go for the reparations fight, and we're continuing to wage that fight to get compensated for all of this brutality, and we are going to continue this fight forever until we get it. What the reason why we have to be compensated for these 300-400 years of free labor and the torture and trauma that they have inflicted on us and continue to perpetuate to this day is that we have to be made whole, and we can't be whole if they're still doing it. Even after they stop doing it, they still got to make us whole. That's what reparation is about. We are demanding equality, and we can't be equal after they've gotten a whole bunch of 400-500 years of stuff and we never got ours. So we all pay equal taxes. We pay taxes now equal to everybody else. So everybody else gets compensated, has gotten compensated, and nobody else of all the different peoples that have been forced to come here were forced to work for free like the African. Okay, so therefore, I want to be very clear about this. This is about us being made whole. We want to get paid back for what they got that we didn't get. All of the goodies that FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, gave out. In particular, this is where the battle begins, where Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave away free land, free access to all kinds of monies and funds and loans and all that stuff, access to free housing and everything. They paid minimum, and they gave them the money to pay for the housing. So all the jobs and incomes and things that they have now been able to flip and invest and grow into multi-millions and billions of dollars, then we want to be compensated for that. We got to be made whole, versus what other people were allowed to get and we were denied. We got to be made whole, okay? And that's what the reparations fight is about. And that's why when you hear this analysis of what they're continuing to do, okay, this makes it even more critical that we stay on their behinds and make sure they compensate us for all the billions and millions of dollars that they cut us out of. Moving on.
Now, I did an interview years ago with Richard Rothstein. He was at the time a part of the Economic Policy Institute, the EPI. And he wrote a paper called The Making of Ferguson. This was during the time that Mike Brown was murdered. And he did this white paper called The Making of Ferguson. And it was absolutely fascinating. I started interviewing this guy, and that paper that he wrote became his book, which was The Color of Law. Every metropolitan area in this country, talking about America, I don't know how it is there in the UK, has segregation, residential segregation. The residential segregation, most people think it happened by accident, or because white flight, or because of private prejudice, or because real estate agents were steering people to one place rather than another, he says. But in fact, the neighborhoods in every metropolitan area in this country was segregated by federal policy. It was the law. Just like we talked about those 3 anti-miscegenation laws that came down, where you couldn't take legal action against the new designation of white people, you couldn't own guns or gunpowder, you couldn't vote or run for office. It was the law, and the law mandated this. And so this is why it is not your fault that you were born into a particular zip code.
Okay, and this again, this is the pivotal point on platform that reparations has been built on, and what we speak from. And this is what we're going to approach the Supreme Court and sue the government of the United States, both on the state level and as well on a federal level. And we are going to be petitioning that, whether it be a reparation of omission, or as well, I think it should be both, a reparation of commission and a reparation of omission. Omission means you don't have to pay taxes. Commission means they will give us a check of a certain amount that is the basic amount, and then you don't have to pay taxes after that. So the check can be $1 million. I mean, $300 million to every adult African American. There's only 60 million of us, right? So $300 trillion or $300 billion, let it be $300 billion, $60 billion, $600 billion, wherever it is. If only the people that are ancestors of the people who worked for free for 300 years get the people who were denied housing, the people who were redlined, the people who were cut off from access to all of the free jobs and the contracts and the giveaways and the grants and the farmland and all that good stuff, all the people who were ancestors of those guys get this money. And then we don't have to pay taxes for another 200 years. That's what I submit we should go after in terms of reparation. But this very data about the government enforcing these laws is what we are going to stand on and fight for until we get it, until we win this amount of money and this compensation for our children, to ensure that we have finally been made whole and finally get to play on a level playing field with everybody else, that especially those who call themselves quote unquote white. Moving on.
It was designed that way. And so if you identify with your zip code, you are going to go and be lost in translation. You'll never reach your fullest potential because you're going to loop. You're going to be on a treadmill running to stand still because of this crazy ideological people put you into a zip code and forced your parents and parents' into a way of life that you think you're free, that you think you chose your house, you think you chose your school, you think you chose your academic programs, you think you chose your food store, your furniture. No, it was already manifested and manufactured for you before. Deliberate, purposeful federal policy and by state local policy as well. We have a government-sponsored system, he says, of racial segregation. So when we talk about this concept of racial segregation and spacing, we're talking about redlining is a systemic denial of various services or goods by federal government agencies, local governments, or the private sector, either directly or through the selective raising of prices. This is often manifested by placing strict criteria on specific services and goods that often disadvantage poor and minority communities. Now think about this. Why do you think there are more churches in poor communities and poor zip codes? There are more taverns. There are more liquor stores. There's more strip malls and strip malls and strip clubs in these. Why do you think that is? That's the zip code that you were born into, that you were forced into. Your job, our job, my job is to break you free and break from that false zip code and to expand to find out who am I originally. It's almost analogous, family, to finding out that after 50, 60, 70 years, your parents were not your biological parents. Imagine the identity crisis that you might go through and grow through to come home, back to Africa, back to your first frequency, to realize and recognize who you've always been. But you've been born into this lie, told this lie, and the people around you live this lie. As a result, you think that what you're doing is right, but you'll never be free. Prior to the Fair Housing Act of 1968, there were no specific laws that protected minority populations from discriminatory practices in housing and commercial markets. Businesses were therefore able to exploit these groups in order to increase their profits. Redlining was utilized in the housing industry by mortgage companies to suppress minority populations from recovering home loans to buy homes in other neighborhoods, as well as to deny them the funds to improve their current home. So it didn't matter if you qualified and had the money to buy into a good neighborhood or house. You weren't allowed. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter. See, this is why they're so upset. Think about this. The fact that you and I are having this conversation right now, only a God could do that. Only a God could survive this onslaught that we have been dealing with for the last 500 years or 1,000 years, however long you want to, whenever the Amu came out. Imagine we have to be, this is why I'm a proponent of first frequency. We have to be gods and goddesses because only a god or a goddess could survive this. This was an annihilation. You know, you see these movies about space aliens coming and destroying Earth and destroying the people. Well, that's what they tried to do. These people are like aliens, right? They're so psychopathic. They're like aliens, but guess what? We still survive. We still get up every day. We still regenerate. And they hate us for it because we're gods. We don't die. We multiply. That's why I know for a fact we are the best of the best, because no other ethnicity could have and did survive what they put on. Even their own species could not survive what they've done. Asians couldn't survive it. Arabs couldn't survive it. The African is the strongest, most durable, venerable species of human in human history, period, end of story. This directly contributed to the spatial isolation of minority communities, a reality which incurred wide-ranging impacts. Physical isolation resulted in political isolation, as these residentially isolated minority communities or groups had local political needs that increased affordable government subsidized housing and improved access to home loans that did not overlap with white majority groups, making political alliances difficult. Spatial isolation also led to cultural and linguistic isolation, as the urban underclass came to resent signs of the dominant white culture, which they viewed as hypocritical. Now, this was the beginning remember I came on and I talked about you only get two opportunities in America to be a Negro or a nigger. So the Negro was the ones who were allowed to get an education, go to school, have some kind of income, and align with white values, and go to a white school, get a white education, a good European education, and now I'm protected. I'm protected because I'm not a nigger. I'm not those niggas out here in these streets. See, this is where the cultural isolation, the spatial isolation comes in, and how the nigger concept was invented. The nigger, the fourth frequency, rejected wanting to be in alignment with the Negro, third frequency, and did not and saw the hypocrisy of second frequency, the European. And so because we are so far removed from our original people, the memory has been lost, but the genetic memory remains that we are first frequency people. And so the nigga is actually, the brothers and sisters out here on the streets are actually closer to the creator and the waters of none than the third frequency, who did everything white that was supposed to be right. Get the education, get the job, get the money, get the bag, raise the kids, go to church, believe in this white boy on a stick, Jesus, believe in the white boy in the sky, God, believe in all these white deities. You're made in the image and likeness of God, but God is white in your right and white world. That's a lost generation of people. We have to say, it's the quote unquote, the nigger fourth frequency is actually going to save the third frequency from themselves, because some of them won't be able to be saved because they have been indoctrinated successfully. They have been completely domesticated and colonized successfully. And as a result, they can't see themselves being 100% African and first frequency. So Rothstein says this. He says, we've adopted this myth that we have something called de facto segregation. It sort of just happened. Because of white flight or private prejudice, we have segregation by law, public policy. It was created that way. The policy has persisted throughout the 20th century. Simply passing laws that say you can't discriminate doesn't undo any of the segregation that existed in the past. It transferred from generation to generation. When we hear that term or hear that word transferred, that's intergenerational, that's epigenetic, transferred from one generation to the next. You see, it doesn't matter that the law changed. What originally happened has a cascading domino effect that we are experiencing right now. Umar Johnson says, in terms of spacing, mass incarceration is another aspect of the technology of racism to keep us separate from each other and from having power and from our white European people. He says, we're not going to give them a job means that these black men and women have to do what? They have to break the law to feed their family. See, this is why I go out here and I go on the internet and I tell my brothers and sisters, if you're selling drugs or using drugs, if you are stripping or selling your body, you are closer to the creator than anyone, because you decided to do something to survive, pay your bills, feed your family, because the other option was to be sold out and pimped out and legally enslaved as a Negro. And so my brothers and sisters out there who are struggling in these streets, I'm speaking to you right now knowing that you are loved and you are seen and you are held in the highest of all humanity, because nothing's wrong with you. This is what has been done to you, that you are not a stripper. You are not a drug dealer, a drug user. You are having this experience because you made a decision, consciously or unconsciously, that white wasn't right, that I'm not going to align and lead with these enslaved, sick, psychopathic people. I'm not going to be this good go-along Negro believing in some white deity. I'm not going to do it. You paid the ultimate price, and that price is how you're living right now. But I want you to know there's an answer, and that is your first frequency, to know that you are a god or a goddess having this experience. And so the reason that I developed this entire ministry is to give our people out there who are struggling the most, the ones who are impoverished, the ones who can't pay their bills. You are the best of us because you're the strongest in the strong of us, because you were made that way. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. No, you don't see necessarily a way out. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I want you to know that we acknowledge you. I see you. First frequency sees you, and that is what wakes you up every single morning. This is not about hope, family. It's now about how. We don't need hope anymore. We need how. And this is what Andrew is bringing to the community, which is why I rock with him. He's not bringing hope. He don't sell hope. He sells how. Okay? And so when we understand what we are doing here, and that you are a part of a history, that you're not, it's not by accident that you're on this program watching this right now. Okay? There's a reason. It is much bigger than you can even fathom. Right? Even with Brother Andrew and Goddess Adele and Goddess Jaretta, you have no idea what you're doing. You have been chosen to do something. This work that you're doing, this is an assignment. This is an assignment from a higher power, from your creator. That's why you're doing what you're doing. Now, Umar goes on to say, so what did they do?
So before you tell us what they do, can I just ask a couple of questions, or should I come back another time?
Well, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. So can I finish this out and then we can have our Q&A?
Okay.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So he says, so what did they do to create this mass incarceration system, which was designed to do what? Remove blacks from the functioning society, get them out of the way so they don't threaten anything we're trying to do. Talking about white people, European concept. He says, so what they do? They upgraded petty crimes and made them felonies. If you don't have a job, you go to jail. If you don't have a home, you go to jail. If you are out past the curfew, you go to jail. You don't have an ID, you go to jail. This is the sickness of spacing that is part of the technology. Any little petty offense, Dr. Umar Johnson says, could put you in prison for years. This was done intentionally. Why? Because the former plantation owners needed workers and they didn't want to pay for them. So what's the cheapest form of labor? Mass incarceration. The ex-slave and then force the ex-slave and then force them out, hire them out, contract them out onto the chain gang. Same thing they are doing today. This was done by design. At the end of the Civil War, there was no large-scale federal prison system. And we can go into Michelle Alexander's work, The New Jim Crow, that codifies all of this information that Dr. Umar has talked about and what I'm presenting today. You didn't have the sophisticated statewide prison networks that you have today. So as we move out of this, I found this, of course, I'm sure many of you have already seen it, Joe Morton in Dinner in America. When we look at somebody asked earlier, how should we look at the AMU? How should we look at second frequency white people and race technology? You look at it as a virus, a thought virus. It's a thought ideological virus is what we're dealing with.
Contribute, say something.
You want me to say something? Fine. I'll say something. You people. You're not a race. You are a virus. You destroy the world. Everything beautiful, you poison. You drag us from our homes, you rape our daughters, murder our... You crack our spines and do all you can to break our will. You stab us. Then you put the knife in our hand and tell us it's our fault. And if you don't do it yourself, you stand by, close your eyes, and pretend there's nothing wrong. And then you pray to your God to silence our screams so that you can enjoy the happiness that we built for you. with our blood. But it's not your fault. It's the only way you know how to be. And the only thing that will change anything is if another virus comes along and does to you what you do to us.
So this triggered, I love that piece. Joe Morton is just one of the baddest ass actors of all times. I just love that brother. He did a piece when he was on Scandal, talking about "You Are a Boy" to Fitzgerald. He's just, nobody can deliver those lines like Joe Morton. He is the GOAT, literally. But I want to talk about this concept called the Django Unchained syndrome. You know, when Django when Django got his freedom and decided to, what does freedom look like? And he's going to put on this, at the time, he's putting on this blue suit, and he goes to Candyland, and the slaves, the house slave and the field slaves, all are looking at him as, who is this N-word on this nag? Because what happens when you are successfully proselytized, domesticated, successfully racially categorized, when you're successfully spaced, when you're successfully classified, when you're successfully separated from mixture and stated, you can't see Africa. You can't see your own people. And so you've been socially engineered not to know, like, or want, or recognize first frequency Africans, gods and goddesses. So there's some, not watching this program, but there's some people in your life that absolutely hate you, will try to even kill you. Maybe at the minimum, will marginalize, minimize you, make you feel guilty, make you feel dumb, make you feel stupid, make you feel less than, because they don't know who the hell they are. They don't.
See, and I want to interject here. This is part of what I talk about when I say we are creatures of our environment, and what I'm talking about is, again, the human form vehicle, not the microcosmic spiritual being with the intuitive intelligence. I'm talking about the human form vehicle with the instinctive intelligence, the dumb brute. Remember, opposites attract. Microcosmic, intuitive intelligence, human form vehicle, dumb brute, instinctive intelligence, knee jerk, no deep thinking, no critical thinking, knee jerk. But again, this is a survival mechanism. So you got to understand the nature of it. It's not nothing to get angry about. It's not something to just overcome. This is a challenge. And this is where you cannot be free if you're trapped in your human form vehicle. And your human form vehicle is driving you around and telling you what you're going to do, and giving you all of these erroneous, dysfunctional, emotional sensations that are erroneous. Okay, and that's why we had a beautiful psychologist. I can see his face now. I have to put his name up here. And he passed on, but he wrote a book called The Erroneous Zone. And this is what he's talking about. This is all coming out of Dianetics. Dianetics is another study of this, how you're trapped in your human form, and your human form is sending you erroneous sensations that are triggering reactionary thoughts, and it becomes this matrix of confusion. And this is what happens because we're not properly educated. And I don't even think people really understand this analysis, and they don't believe it because it is too complex. And the environment that most of us are raised in, we only have shallow, superficial analysis. We're not taught to think deep. We're taught to be knee-jerk, get a quick answer, do superficial, and go ahead with that. Don't go too deep. They call it paralysis of analysis. Sometimes you can, because just to try to analyze this madness and insanity, it will paralyze you and confound you. If you don't put it in perspective. And that's what this workshop is all about, helping you to understand the mechanism and all of the nuances and subtle little ways that you get drawn into these erroneous reactions, knee-jerk reactions to a matrix of complex, diabolical, maniacal kind of nonsense. Once you start identifying with this human form as you, that's how you get trapped. The moment you realize and you accept that you are not the body, you are not the thought, you are not the mind, you are not these sensations that are transmitted to you, that are really originally designed for you to use and dominate. Okay, but when it's out of context and and they're dysfunctionally being used dysfunctionally, this creates the matrix and a hodgepodge of just madness that you can only get a handle on once you get into meditation. You separate yourself out and bond and identify with your intuitive intelligence and your microcosmic being. That is you, the infinite being. And you stop hugging up on and identifying with this flesh form temporary vehicle that is going to expire in 100 years. And that time matters only for this vehicle, not you, not me, not in your essence, not what we are in our essence. Time does not matter for us because we are infinite beings. When in our essence, we are extensions of Amma, and Amma is everywhere at the same time, so therefore time doesn't matter. Amma knows everything there is to know, and Amma is everything that exists. So Amma doesn't want anything. You don't need to want what you already are and have. This is the mentality, this is the reality, this is the focus, this is the identification that you have to function out of and let go of this form and trying to maintain it. We're here, this is for temporary use. This is random access memory. This vehicle, this environment, this world, this part of the universe that we are existing in, this human form that we are existing in and using, it's temporary. Let's move on.
Know what you know. They don't know that you are a god or a goddess having this human experience. And so they can't see you. As much as you scream and say, hey, go watch this program with Andrew Muhammad, go check out this YouTube video. Some don't even do it. And then what's really painful to watch is when somebody does watch and participate in a program like this and betrays and can't see it, and betrays their own people and can't see it. So when we see people like Stacey Dash and folks of sort, we understand that nothing's wrong with them. This is what happened to them, but in a very real sense, they've lost their mind. Niggas see niggas. Negroes see Negroes. Did you get that? So it doesn't matter if you're a PhD, it doesn't matter if you're a god or a goddess. A nigga, in the mindset of a nigga, they see you as another nigga. If you are a good go-along Negro, the Negro is only going to be able to see a god or goddess as they see themselves, which is Negro. I want you to really get this, family, because nobody's talking about this. Nobody is breaking this down in this manner. And only Andrew Muhammad can bring on a Reverend Shock, because most people are terrified of Reverend Shock, because I'm the Bernie Mac of metaphysics.
And that's something I say about my book. And this concept about the two intelligences, one for the microcosmic being, the infinite being, and one for the finite human instinctive intelligence. Nobody's talking about this. That's why when Baba Philippe made that statement, I had to stop and tell you this. This is another thing. Nobody is talking about this perspective and this framework and this structural analysis that I am presenting in my book, The Anatomy of Existence and the Power of Belief. We haven't even got in, I haven't even started talking to you about the power of belief. I've talked to you about aspects of how belief can trigger even dysfunctional behavior, because belief doesn't give a damn whether it's good or bad. There is no good or bad for belief. There is well, I should say, belief triggers the subconscious machine, and the subconscious machine don't give a damn. It don't care whether you good, right or wrong, good, bad. It don't know nothing about that. All it know is whatever you repeat and whatever you believe, that's what it's gonna manufacture. It's not personal, it's science. And once you understand that, everything gets easy. Now you'll stop saying I am this and I am that. You'll say my person is hungry. My person is tired. My person feels whatever. You know, my person, my person's mind, my person is transmitting, my person is doing this. The person you're talking about is your human. My human is doing this. My human feels this. And see, by using that language, you begin to come out of the matrix and you stop identifying with your person as you. That's the goal. That's the beginning of the freedom and the liberation, and from being trapped inside the person, the human. And now the microcosmic being can begin to do what it was all originally meant to do, is take charge. Let's keep it moving.
So I keep it real. You are not able to see yourself outside of your zip code and your environment when you have been successfully racially, socially engineered with this race technology, with this scientific racism. It has stopped you from reaching your highest potential. It's caused you to trigger a backfire effect to your original spiritual system. You believe that the Bible is real. You believe that this white boy on the stick is real. This is how you know you have been successfully socially engineered and conditioned to think and be a particular way. And a detriment to your own self. This is why you're ashamed to be African. This is why you will always self-sabotage your higher frequency relationships and opportunities. How many opportunities have you had? How many relationships have you messed up? Because your brain and mind is messed up because you've been conditioned and programmed that way, but you don't know that you're conditioned and programmed. And even if you did, you deny it because you think you're in control.
See, this is beautiful. This is why I tell you folks, what Baba Philippe is offering you here, this is free. He's not even charging you for this stuff. And what I'm giving you is free. And this is the way all true wisdom and insight and enlightened data and knowledge is supposed to be given to you. This is your human right to have this. We say human right because as a microcosmic being, none of this stuff can touch you, really. So you have to, it's given to you as, and we speak to it as a human right because that's the environment we in, that's the language we use when it comes to rights and all that stuff and law, okay? But you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about a whole nother level here. We ain't talking about no law. What kind of laws we're talking about here, I take that back, it is law, but it's more instructive law. It's instructive analysis to help you understand the environment you're in and help wake you up to the power that you have simply by repeating thoughts that you project instead of being, using reactive thoughts that something else in your environment is tricking you into reacting to. Because that's what you're in. You're in a trick bag when you're trapped in your vehicle. And your vehicle, the instinctive intelligence of your vehicle is throwing rapid fire darts and all kinds of stuff that you're reacting to. And all you really have to do is, you don't care whether the human form, because you do care. You don't want your mind to be, your human form to be taking your mind space and projecting all of this nonsense. But you know, what you have to learn to do is stop focusing, stop paying attention to that nonsense. And once you stop paying attention to that nonsense, the human form vehicle is going to stop. It has to stop. Because the only reason it's doing what it's doing is because it works. Now, once it stops working and you stop reacting to it, oh, then it's going to give up. Because there's nothing else it can do. It has no real power over you, but you don't know that. And that's what I'm giving you, and that's what Baba Philippe is giving you. Both of us are giving you this stuff for free, but you are not aware of what's going on. And that's why I call this the awakening. We are waking you up to the truth of your power. And we haven't gotten into law of attraction and law of repetition. We haven't really gotten into that, or auto-suggestion. When we get into that, that's when you're going to start kicking ass and taking names. That's when you're going to shut this puppy down. All of this crap that these mutated Africans are putting out that are trapped in their human forms, and then they're spewing that garbage on you and infecting you. That's why we call them a virus. They're not a virus, but it's the madness and the insanity that they are infected by. And so now they're infected, so they're going around infecting everybody else, because misery loves company. Misery they don't want to be infected by themselves. The human form vehicle wants to have this illusion of control over everything that's going on here. Because like I said, it ain't going to exist but about 100 years and it's gone. So it has a survival motivation that we don't know nothing about, because we are infinite beings. We don't die. So we don't feel threatened like they do. Like it does, I should say that. But it's not bad. It's just out of control. And the moment you gain control of it, you're going to spread harmony throughout your environment, because this out of control, maniacal, dumb brute is going to be put in its place. And that's what you have to do. If you want to have peace, harmony, joy, and happiness throughout your environment, you have to dominate this human form vehicle. That's what they mean by know thyself. Know the microcosmic spiritual, infinite spiritual being that you are, okay? And how to control your instinctive, your human form vehicle, and take charge of the instinctive intelligence that is spewing all of this dysfunctional thinking and dysfunction, which will trigger dysfunctional behavior. Okay, let's keep it moving.
You think you know what you're doing, and it's a difference between being right versus being free. This is why you'll always attract insurmountable problems and challenges in your life. You have been conditioned to fail at birth and even before your birth, which is epigenetic. You hate yourself and those who remind you of yourself, because guess what? You are not yourself. You're not a nigga. You're not a Negro. You're not a baby mama. You're not a baby daddy. You're not a thug. You're not a thought. You're not a bitch. You're not a hoe. You're not any of those things.
And this is what when Baba Kaba talks in some of his lectures, he said, it is quite natural for you to act unnatural when you're around unnatural and sick and unhealthy people. Of course, you're going to act unnaturally, because we're creatures of the body form vehicle is a creature of its environment. It will react, and it is easily influenced by repeated dysfunctional behavior, because again, we're going to act out of what we're repeatedly being trained to react, how we're being repeatedly trained to react. The human form vehicle is a creature of an environment. So you take charge of the environment, you take it out of whatever environments it's been going into, and you make it go where you want it to go. Let's keep it moving.
If you believe you are, and you identify as such, so be it.
And there is the golden coin, the essence of this entire video and what the title of my book, The Anatomy of Existence, which what I'm doing is explaining all of the components and the structure of the scene and the scenario that we were born into. But the most powerful thing is the power of belief. And that's what Baba just said. If you believe it, the subconscious machine is going to make it happen. And so what you have to change is your beliefs. You have to take control of what and how your beliefs are formed. Let's keep it moving.
The universe responds to your frequency. It does not recognize your personal desires, wants, or needs. It only understands the...
When he says the universe, he's talking about the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind. Let's keep it moving.
Frequency in which you are vibrating at. For example, if you are vibrating in the frequency...
So frequency means repeating. Frequency or hertz means cycles. Cycles is another way of saying repeating. Beginning, start at the bottom, go to the top, come back to the bottom, start again, go to the top, come back around, start again at the bottom, go start again. Around and around and around and around. And that's what I show you when this video first started, and that's why I show it to you at the end of this video. So you will see that everything that control, the way you dominate and control is by repeating. When you meditate, you repeat your thoughts, you repeat your mantra, you repeat your meditation a certain times of day, you repeat your visions. Everything that repeats impacts the subconscious mind. So you have to understand what cycles and frequency, that's what it means, repeating. Let's go.
Frequency of fear, guilt, or shame, you are going to attract things on a similar vibration. If you are vibrating in the frequency of love, joy, and abundance, you are going to attract things that support that frequency. It's kind of like tuning into a radio station. You have to be tuning into the music you want to listen to, just like you have to be tuned into the energy you want to manifest in your life. Change your mindset. It will change your life. So as we move forward, what we need to stop doing is stop caring about what white people think. We stop caring about white people's opinions. Stop trauma bonding with the technologies of race. We talked about that the last time I was here. Stop living the false racial construct and sub-labels of third and fourth frequency. Negroes and niggas don't exist. Stop identifying as a thug, thought, bitch, hoe, baby mama, baby daddy. That is not you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something happened to you, family.
And that's what I mean by come out of the matrix. Stop trying to be with them. Stop trying to think like them. Stop watching their television. Throw that damn Bible in the garbage. It is a trap. It is a lure that's going to lead you down a path of absolute wasting of your time and distraction. It is the worst trap of them all. And this terrifies the living hell out of some black people. Because if they let go of that, what scares the shit out of them, excuse my French, is what are they going to use in order to maintain their sanity? They don't understand that they're a junkie. The first thing you got to admit is you're a junkie. Get rid of the drug. Stop taking the drug. You might have a little bit of adverse reaction, but when you know you're God, having a human experience, and you believe it, and you know it through and through like I do, oh baby, I have no hesitation, no equivocation, no shaky bakey or none of that about telling you throw that filthy Bible in the garbage. And I say it proudly and with my chest out, head up, and my shoulders back, because I know I'm God already. I don't need no priest or nobody to tell me how to talk to me. Are you out of your mind? Yes, you are. You're out of your mind. And that's what I'm trying to get you to get back in charge of. Take charge. Let's keep it moving.
Before I go into this, did we have questions, comments?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to end it here. I'm not going to let you go through all of that. And you know, I have the link posted. I want to keep this short and sweet. I have the link posted, so I want you to feel free to you know, click on the link, go to what they have there, you know, on the actual site. Okay, and you can watch this video in full and go through the whole question and answer, which is a question and answer segment of this presentation, and you will get even more meat. But I just want to do a overview to try to articulate for you, and I hope you'll find this informative and instructive, and helping you to develop your own program on and give you a thorough analysis, a comprehensive analysis that Baba Philippe Matthews has given us. This is solid gold, folks, and I want you to understand the value of what you are getting both from him and myself. Nobody is doing what we are doing here, folks. Nobody. They're giving you analysis about anthropology and telling you about Egypt and stuff we've done in the past, and all of that is good. But we need self-help. We need instructions on how this crap works, this matrix of lies and nonsense, and how to get out of it. So I'm giving you the meditation techniques. Philippe Matthews is giving you the meditation techniques. We're telling you exactly what you need to do. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Not what you have now. This is all over and done with. Visualize what you see yourself having tomorrow. Okay? 6 months from now. Follow the workshop instructions. When you get my book, there's going to be a litany of other great thinkers, white, black, across the board, who have been doing this stuff for hundreds of years at this point. Okay, we're not the only ones doing it, but we're the only black ones that are pushing this. Ain't nobody talking about this level of detail and this level of analysis that is getting better as all evolutionary things do. But as all things do in evolution, get better. And just as sure as I'm getting better at presenting this to you, you will get better. You will do this. You can do this. There is nothing nobody cannot do. Everything I'm telling you, you can do. The question is, are you willing to dedicate the time, the energy, the focus, and be determined to win and never, ever give up, and you're guaranteed to win. I know I'm being passionate, and I'm doing this on purpose. I want to drive a point to you so stark and shocking that it wakes you up. That's why I call this the awakening. This period of time where the matrix is being exposed and people are going to wake up. I don't know how many of you I'm going to reach, but I want you to understand, you are me and I am you. So when I talk to you with the energy that I'm talking to you with, it's because I know I know what you are. You're the same exact thing that I am, but the only difference is I'm awakened and you're not yet. I believe and you don't yet. But as you begin to practice little small steps, I don't know how far you're going to get in this lifetime, okay? But the awakening has begun, okay? And in your next lifetime, you're going to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. So I leave you with this positive optimistic view. And again, we're infinite beings. We don't die. We are forever. So you got all the time in the world to get it right. If you don't get it right in this lifetime, you get it right in the next one. But that you are a part of a cycle that's called evolution. And it only moves in one direction, folks. This is another positive thing I want you to put in your pocket, in your toolbox. Evolution moves in one direction and one direction only. Forward, better, more positive, more successful, more can-do, more kick-ass. That's what you're gonna dominate this physical form vehicle here and the instinctive intelligence, because that's your job. That's why you're here, to express your perfection. And you can't do that until you understand what you are and what your purpose is and what is available to you by way of tools, okay, and knowledge and wisdom, science and facts. These are the elements and the tools that you will use to take charge and be better, have a more successful life, to have joy and experience heaven right here and right now, as I have been doing for the last, I have to say, 40 years. And the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because I cannot continue to be blessed with all of this wisdom and knowledge that have transformed my life into such a positive and constructive and beautiful. I have a beautiful life, even with my family is so dysfunctional, so lost. And I know yes, I am. I'm a gift to them, but I'm here because this is where I'm supposed to be. Everything that is meant to be. God don't make mistakes. The order doesn't make mistake. Again, when the Big Bang was one thought that the macro had, that's it. And it was perfect. And everything that is meant to be. And I am in harmony with that purpose. And therein lies my joy, my happiness, my peace, and my solace. And this is from which I draw all my strength and all my confidence. And that's why when I talk to the lost ones, the walking dead, who are believing in that Bible and hugging up on that white man's, that mutated African Bible with all of its machinations and all its confusion, I feel so sorry for them. But again, what I tell them is what I'm going to tell you now. The way you're going to know truth is that the person that's talking to you, I'm not going to scare you and tell you you're going to go to hell in eternal damnation, because that can't happen for you. You and I are untouchable. That's our truth. That's what we are. We can't die. When this vehicle goes to sleep at night, I'm still dreaming. I'm still receiving visions and thoughts and insight and wisdom, because I'm tapped into my intuitive intelligence is awakened. So I'm getting insight every morning. When I wake up, I'm getting more insight. When my body wakes up and I bond back with it, the insight becomes more real to me in real time. Because time starts the moment I bond back with this body. Time don't exist for me in the metaphysical world. See, we're timeless beings. Time don't exist. That's why we jump from one thing to another in our visuals and our dreams. That's coming from the intuitive bonding with Ama itself. Okay. Sorry to make you drink from a fire hose, as we say it. But this is all about love. This is all about joy. This is all about happiness. This is all about power, knowledge, wisdom, insight, and science. Go in peace. I wish you success. I wish you strength. I wish you happiness and joy. One love. And I'll see you in the next week. Into form. Through form. Back into form. through form. Out and back into form immediately. Through form. Out and back into form immediately. Through form. Out and back into the next form. Through form. Out and back into the next form. This is the cycle of existence for us as microcosmic beings. Never ending, infinitely, never dying, simply jumping from one form to the next form, infinitely and forever. The form will expire. We will immediately jump into the new form in a nanosecond, because we are eternal beings, just like Amma, never ending, infinite and unlimited power, trying to express ourselves through these human forms. So we'll go out and back into the next form, go live through this form, come to a peak at the top, and then age out. The form will age out. Our microcosmic spirit will leave that form and jump back into the next form. Live through that form. Wear that form out. Leave that form and animate the next form. This is the cycle of existence for us, the microcosmic beings, the microcosmic expressions of the totality, the macrocosmic being we call Amma. Endlessly and forever. Jumping into form, living through these forms. The form wears out, cannot keep up with us, so we will jump from that form into the next form, endlessly and forever, living through these forms, not to be confused as being the forms. We simply jump from one form to the next form, live through that form. As the form ages out, we will simply transform into the next form, endlessly and forever. This is the cycle of our existence.